So I'm here working on this kiln. It's a gin kiln from the 70s. And we're trying to fire some clay in it, and it just wasn't quite getting up to temperature. So looked into it a little further and found out that the top coil is burned up. It's opened up. Right in here you can see where the coil's opened. So I've got a new coil from the company. I'm going to go ahead and replace it. So the first thing you have to do is pull out these staples that kind of hold the coil. They look like this here, just a wire staple, pretty long actually. So I'm going to go through and locate all those and remove those. And so I removed all the screws on this panel, and now it's free to slide out. Now I'm not going to try to remove it entirely. I'm just going to try to back it out just enough to get to the coils here. The wiring's very brittle and very old. That screw came out. And so here's the old connector. Luckily I have some new ones. I wouldn't want to try to reuse these. There's the wire it was attached to. This wire is very stiff and brittle. When you try to bend it, it just snaps. So here's the connection. Hopefully I'll be able to make the connection with the new coil without breaking it. Now this one over here looks a little tricky. It is very heavily corroded. So one connection here is pretty risky. I'm going to try and use some vice grips on the head of it. just to get it started. They told me that it's quite likely I'll need to replace 2 heating elements because they're wired in series, and I can see looks quite likely that I might end up breaking the connection when trying to make this thing work. Quite likely. I'm going to cut it with a Dremel saw, I believe. Try to save that coil. So the other connection I can't get to, the screw is stripped. I'm going to attempt to cut the connection apart to loosen it up to get the wire out with a Dremel with a high-speed abrasive cutoff wheel. Got one side cut. I'm going to go ahead and just try to cut the screw behind where it's threaded as well. Okay, I've completely cut the screw, and I can see it's probably going to be loosened up now. There's a little wire load spreader. I need to flex that out of the way if I can. Forgot to mention it's hot. Guess I'm just going to go ahead and cut the whole thing. Not much more left to it. I'm just using these pliers to hold on to it. There you can see I've cut it entirely in half. Let's see if I can get the wire out now. Still smoking. Well, there's not much holding that, but just enough, I guess. I'll have to go get some other tools to work that out of there. So you can see here's the two wires that are connected together. And this is the piece I cut off the front with the screw. And this was the other side, it came right out. But basically I just cut this piece right in half. And so now I have to try to, the wires are still tied together somehow. So I'm going to try to pry that apart. So what I'm trying to do is save the bottom coil. If I flex it too much, it could break it. And I actually have the second coil. They recommended to buy 2 coils because very often you end up breaking the second connection. Okay, I was able to do that. There's the one I'm trying to save. The one on top is the one that's burned in half. So I'm going to pull that out from this side, if I can. There are these little ceramic tubes that you have to be careful not to break. I'm probably going to just cut this so I don't have to pull it through there because it might break. Here we go. There's the other end. I've got the top coil removed now, and these are the 2 connections that the top coil gets. And so now I'm going to go through and clean up the coil, the kiln, and all the debris and get ready to install the new coil. So I've got a shop back here. I'm going to clean a lot of things that fell out, clean all that up. got the kiln cleaned out. Now I'm going to put in the new coil. Before I proceed anymore, I want to confirm that that second coil is still good, because I want to check it now, because I can go ahead and replace it now rather than to wait, since they are connected together. So I've just got a voltmeter here. I'm just going to check the resistance. So I can attach it right there to the lead of the bottom, the second coil. And then the other connection is right there. Yeah, I'm getting 18 ohms, so that's about right. That's about what the coils read. So I think we're good to go. I can save that other coil in case I have another burnout. I'll tell you, I don't think I could have disconnected it without breaking it, except by using the Dremal tool to cut the connector in half, because it was so corroded. So now I'm going to proceed to put in the coil. These are the coils they sent me, just in a pack like this. So these coils appear to be tied in series, or connected in series. So I'm going to go ahead and pass one through the hole. I was glad I called the company and got the direct replacement, because they seem to fit in there very nicely. I was reading where some of them you have to stretch them out to some length. And this looks like it's got the exact preform bend in it. And it looks like it's definitely the way to go. The thing's just dropping right in there. It's exactly right. It's working out. Couldn't ask for a better fit than that right there, I'll tell you. It's tucked way back into the back. Oh man, that's nice. Maybe you can see. Fits very nicely in there, and here's my two connections. They're the two bright wires here. So one of them, this side just gets connected to this wire here. The other one, I get bend down and it connects to this old, the other heating element. And there's a bag of connectors they send me. They say I would need 3. And so here's what I've got. These are slightly different. I wish they would have used a hex key or socket head instead of this one's a slotted and a Phillips. But I guess maybe it's not that big of a problem. It looks like a brass connector with a steel screw. I think I can handle it. So I'm going to use a wrench here that fits it perfectly. This one's a 5/16, so I'm going to use the open end. Be nice if I could use this, but then I wouldn't be able to get the thing out when I'm done. That would definitely hold it very nicely. So what I have to do is put it on the bottom one here first. And then bend this down, get it to overlap it. And I also want it pulled in tightly this way. Bends pretty nicely. And what I can do is just bring that up, take it down. And make the connection right there. And you want to check the fit of your, whatever screwdriver you're using. You want to check the fit of in the head of the screw before you proceed. This actually looks like it could also take a number 2 Phillips head, which is probably a good idea. I think well, that fits very, very snug. I'm gonna go ahead and go with this. Have it here in my hand. Don't recall a torque spec, but I snugged it in there pretty decently. And so the second one here, I think it's gonna have to be bent. I think that one can go straight out maybe. That appears to be how they're doing that. I think I'm going to bend it. You have to think about how the screw is going to be engaged. Put it like that. I want this to have a downward bend on it, like the other one, I guess. And this one I'm probably going to need to trim because it's going to connect something else if I don't. Well, I can see at some point, looks like this whole thing will need to be rewired. This looks like some really old cloth wiring, or maybe that's just how it is, I don't know. I'm going to trim this one so it can't connect the bottom one there. Using some pretty heavy duty cutters here. So this one I've got the wire in there first, and I'm bringing it up to the heating element. I want that heating element to protrude through the bottom all the way. And the wire is also stranded, so I want to make sure I get all the strands. So this one I'm just going to snug it gently by hand, and then I'll put a tool on it because I need to hold these wires precisely. It's looking good. So this should heat up a lot better now because I guess 2 of the coils weren't firing up. There we go. So now I can just gently slide this back into place. Ooh, that's nice, yeah. And I'll put some staples back in. They've sent me some new staples, so I'll use those. The old staples are kind of corroded. So I've made the connections. The coil, it's all electrically back together. I'm just going to use these staples here to try to fix the coil in place. This may turn out to be the most difficult part of the job. Hey, this thing scares me here. I'd like to do something a little more robust as a way to hold this lid open. I can see I'm outside, like a bird could come and land on it and make it fall. Which we do get a lot of birds in here. That one I managed to put the staple in, but it missed the wire entirely. Yeah, I think to me this seems to be the most challenging part of the job. They also say you have to get it on the back side of a coil and not short a coil out. It's really hard to see. I really don't even know how they would do it on these lower coils. Basically all I'm seeing is the front of the coil. All right, there we go. They said to not use the existing holes, and I think that is a good tip because it's possible. But these staples seem to go right in pretty easily. pretty long too. Seems like they would almost be coming all the way out. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, that thing coming down on me there. And all it takes is just the gentlest touch. I'm going to try it just with a few staples in there. And also I need to vacuum it again because I've disturbed the brick a little. There's some dust flying around. Now I'm going to get some screws and put this cover back on.